What does it truly mean to be strong? Is strength measured by how many battles you win, or by the battles you no longer need to fight? For centuries, one name has stood above nearly every swordsman in history: Miyamoto Musashi. A legendary warrior whose victories became the foundation of myth, Musashi is remembered not only for his unmatched skill with the sword, but for the philosophy he forged through a lifetime of conflict. To many, he was an undefeated duelist. To others, he was a strategist. But beneath the image of an invincible swordsman was a man searching for something far greater than victory. He was searching for understanding. Musashi realized that defeating others was only a temporary achievement. The true battle, the one that lasts a lifetime, is the battle against your own fear, pride, ego, and complacency. His philosophy teaches us that mastery is never about becoming better than everyone else. It's about becoming better than the person you were yesterday. Every challenge, every failure, and every obstacle becomes another opportunity to sharpen not just your skill, but your character. That is why Musashi's ideas continue to inspire people centuries after his death. Because his philosophy isn't about swords, it's about life. It's about discipline when motivation disappears. It's about remaining calm when the world falls into chaos. It's about accepting that perfection is impossible, but self-improvement is endless. Perhaps the greatest lesson Musashi offers is that your greatest enemy has never been another person. It's always been yourself. And that raises a question worth asking. If the only person standing between you and your potential is yourself, what are you waiting for? To understand Miyamoto Musashi's philosophy, we first have to understand the life that shaped it. Musashi was born during one of the most turbulent periods in Japanese history, an era marked by war, political instability, and constant conflict. From a young age, survival depended on strength, adaptability, and the willingness to face danger. Legend says he fought and won his first duel while still a teenager. While most people were learning how to live, Musashi was already learning how easily life could be taken away. As he grew older, he traveled across Japan, challenging skilled swordsmen in search of growth. These weren't simply battles to prove he was the strongest. Each duel became another lesson about fear, preparation, patience, and the human mind. Over time, Musashi won dozens of duels and built a reputation as an undefeated swordsman. But something began to change. The more victories he earned, the more he realized that defeating others wasn't the same as understanding himself. After years of conflict, Musashi gradually shifted his focus away from chasing opponents and toward mastering his own mind. He spent much of his later life studying strategy, painting, calligraphy, meditation, and philosophy. These pursuits reflected his belief that true mastery extends beyond a single skill. It requires developing the whole person. Near the end of his life, Musashi wrote the Book of Five Rings, not simply as a manual for swordsmanship, but as a guide to strategy, discipline, and continuous self-improvement. His lessons have influenced soldiers, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, and leaders for centuries because they speak to challenges that exist far beyond combat. The reason Musashi's philosophy still resonates today is because his greatest battles weren't fought with a sword, they were fought within himself. One of his most important lessons is that discipline will carry you farther than motivation ever can. Motivation comes and goes. Some days you'll feel inspired, other days you won't. Discipline is what keeps you moving when inspiration disappears. Musashi also believed in lifelong learning. Even after becoming one of the greatest swordsmen of his era, he never considered himself finished. He continued studying new skills because he understood that the moment you believe you've mastered everything is the moment you stop growing. Perhaps his most famous lesson is that your greatest opponent is yourself, the fear that tells you to quit, the pride that refuses to admit mistakes, the ego that constantly compares you to others. Those are the battles that shape your life far more than any external competition. Musashi teaches us that success isn't about defeating everyone around you. It's about becoming someone who can overcome fear, remain humble in victory, learn from failure, and continue improving even when nobody is watching. His life reminds us that mastery isn't a destination, It's a lifelong pursuit. And maybe that's why Musashi is remembered centuries later, not because he never lost a duel, but because he never stopped trying to become a better version of himself. When people remember Miyamoto Musashi, they often remember the number of duels he won, but perhaps they've been asking the wrong question all along. The question isn't how many battles did Musashi win, it's what did those battles make him become. Every duel forced him to confront something greater than the person standing in front of him. Some taught him patience, others taught him humility. Many reminded him that overconfidence can be just as dangerous as fear. With every victory, Musashi gained experience, but he also gained perspective. He began to understand that defeating an opponent brings only temporary satisfaction. The lessons you carry away from the battle are what remain with you for the rest of your life. One of the most famous examples is his duel with Sasaki Kojiro. Musashi famously arrived late, unsettling his opponent before the fight even began, and used a wooden sword carved from an oar instead of a traditional blade. Whether every detail of the story is historically accurate is debated, but the lesson associated with it is clear. Musashi believed victory depended on preparation, adaptability, and understanding your opponent's mind, not just superior technique. As the years passed, his battles became less about proving he was the strongest and more about refining who he was. The sword transformed from a weapon into a teacher. Conflict became a mirror. Every opponent reflected a different weakness that Musashi had to confront within himself. By the end of his life, he wasn't remembered only as a swordsman. He was remembered as a philosopher. That transformation may have been his greatest victory of all, because anyone can spend their life defeating others. Very few spend it overcoming themselves. And perhaps that's why Musashi's philosophy has survived for centuries. It reminds us that every challenge we face, every failure, every setback, every difficult conversation is its own kind of duel, not against another person, but against fear, against pride, against the temptation to stop growing. So before this video ends, ask yourself one question. If every struggle you faced wasn't meant to break you, but to teach you something about yourself, what lesson have you been overlooking? Maybe the greatest battle you'll ever fight isn't waiting somewhere in your future. Maybe it's the one within you, every single day. And maybe victory isn't reaching the end of that battle. Maybe victory is choosing to face it again tomorrow.